Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of The Outlet, as we work as Reece Group together with our industry partners, Master Plumbers Association, to try and make some sense of what is a pretty challenging time across Victoria, as well as right across Australia as we continue to navigate our way through COVID-19. The reason that we've brought our people together today, and I'm joined by Peter Daly, you know him as the CEO of Master Plumbers Association. Pete, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, going all right. Thank you very much. And we're very lucky to be able to be joined by one of the leaders of the Reece Group business, an operations leader. And he's been front and centre, not just in Victoria and navigating the current environment, but also heavily involved in leading the New Zealand business and helping them navigate the restrictions. So no one better to speak to than how we can support our customers and those out on the tools at the moment. Matt Clarke, how are you?
G'day, Huey. How you doing?
Yeah, mate, I'm doing all right, thanks, and really appreciate your time. So sort of over the next 10 minutes, guys, what we really want to try and do is break it down, as simple as we can. And, we know it's a challenging environment, but we really want to arm our customers with, and your members, Peter, with the right amount of insight and understanding of what the next couple of weeks might hold and any tools that we can give them to really kick some goals in what's going to be a challenging environment. So, Peter, I might kick things off with you. I mean, for you, obviously, you're front and centre when it comes to industry and government discussions. How bamboozled are you by what's transpired, not just since the roadmap to recovery was announced, but particularly the last 24 or 48 hours in the discussions you've had with industry and government? What's sticking out to be some of the major sticking points, I suppose, in terms of what the government's announced and the path forward?
Yeah, look, it is complex, mate. There's no doubt about it, and it's further or more complex because there's a split between what's happening in Metro Melbourne and what's happening in regional Victoria. So it's pretty tough for businesses out there at the moment operating under restrictions, and I guess there's a lot of people disappointed that restrictions can't be eased a little bit earlier. We've certainly been plugging away for the industry as hard as we can to get people back in jobs, to get businesses open so that people's lives and livelihoods can be restored. And I guess never forgetting the role that plumbing plays in public health. This is a public health emergency like everything else, and it's essential that plumbers are out there on the job doing what they do best.
And I suppose that the major surprise was, again, nothing much has changed. So the roadmap, the level 4 restrictions have been extended, which means thankfully essential services can continue. And we know your members and Reece customers who are out on the trade and that front line doing what they do every day continue to be able to work. Are you and your members frustrated by the most recent announcement, and do you see any light at the end of the tunnel, particularly with the extension of the restrictions and then maybe some of the confusion that surrounds what the roadmap to a COVID normal might look like?
Yeah, mate, there's no doubt that this was a bit of a blow to the whole community, and the plumbing fraternity is part of that. I guess where we were disappointed was that the works at owner-occupied sites, residential sites, still won't be able to go ahead until the very final stage in Metro Melbourne, which is the 26th of October and post.
And that's renovations, the renovation sort of stuff you're talking about, or if you live in the home and the works that you can't get done.
If you live in the home, so even then, as it currently stands, you can't get outside and just replace your gutters or replace roof sheeting and the like until 28th of October. 26th of October. So after that, you can do work where there's negligible contact with customers, or it's physically separated work. So for example, the homeowner goes away for the day if it's a day job. We really would have liked to see that in a little bit earlier, because it makes no sense to us that if you're out there replacing the gutters and you've got no contact with the homeowner, why that work can't start pretty much straight away.
Yeah. And Matt, I know you have a lot of contact with customers, even in this COVID environment. Reece like to be very close to their customers and educating them and provide them with the expertise and the right products to be able to do the essential work that we are allowed to do during the current restrictions. How have you and the team at Reece adapted to the latest lockdowns and what they've meant, not just for customers, but also consumers?
Yeah, Hugh, we've been really interesting. So, we've approached it in a number of different ways. So if I look at what we've done around our increased commitment around technology, so this was by using our Max platform to really enhance that contactless transactions, because we felt that was, really high on the agenda. We signed all of our customers up to our Max platform. So previously a customer would have to do it themselves. And really that was just around enabling, all of our trade customers to be able to continue to transact with us so that they can complete that essential work. Probably a couple other things we did, Huey. We had to really ramp up our click and collect offering. So we needed to be able to provide contactless points within the branch for customers that, felt more comfortable in wanting to purchase their goods that way. And then we also had to put some energies into our logistics framework, I suppose, to be able to route our vehicles to areas that were, more heavily influenced by deliveries, etc., to make sure that we can continue to provide goods to customers.
And so it's probably really fair to say that COVID has sort of accelerated tradies' uptake in an environment maybe where historically they were more traditional. So they did enjoy coming in for the party pies on a Friday and really engaging face to face with customers, but it's really accelerated that sort of digital transformation of some of those tradie businesses. Are you seeing that as bringing about benefits?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, even if you look at just consumer spending in Australia over the past, sort of 6 months, like, Australia Post and all that are talking about record numbers of online transactions and deliveries to people's houses. So that whole way in which people are, sort of procuring product and getting product, to their houses or for projects they need, that's all changing. So, COVID-19's really probably accelerated our push into that space to be able to provide customers, a platform to be able to do that as well. So, albeit, did I think we'd probably get there in this time frame in 2020? Probably not. But really considering where we are and what's happened, I think that we've been able to, provide solutions so that tradespeople can still undertake work.
And are you and your teams getting a lot of questions coming back from customers, and are we helping sort of provide expertise and guidance to them, Matty, around what COVID-19 looks like? Are you finding that there's a real conduit that Reece is playing in terms of breaking down what government restrictions look like and answering any questions that customers have got? I mean, they should feel free to come to you and the teams to be able to demystify anything if they've got any questions.
Well, if I look at some of the things, Huey, that have really sort of changed in the past sort of couple of months, I think that, we've had our team spending a lot of sort of extra time in making sure they get across their customers. There's, a lot of conversations happening daily with their account holders just to check in, see how they're doing. But also too, what we are finding is a real trend for our account holders wanting to know more about what they can and can't do. And they're coming to us to be able to provide that, some of that information as well. So that's been a challenge in itself because it's also meant we've had to educate our teams.
Yeah. And Peter, you finding the same thing? Like I know you've got some great resources on the Master Plumbers websites, and we'll have all the links available as part of the post of this podcast. But what are some of the pain points you're hearing? And then what are you having open dialogue then with government and industry to be able to openly talk about that and try and find some solutions on behalf of your members?
Yeah, mate, I think one of the things that's come out of this is we have got very good channels to government, both through the departments and directly to the ministers and the treasurer. So we're very grateful for that. And I've got to say they have been listening very hard too. Look, it's a tough one for government. No one wants to be in this situation making these hard choices, but we've been able to get information to our members on plumber.com.au pretty quickly, sometimes, not much longer after it's even been announced. But it's confusing. You've got the sort of the combination of the different stages, plus in construction, the industry specific stuff around whether it's heavily restricted or open with a COVID safe plan. And even just understanding the difference between what a COVID safe plan is and a high risk COVID safe plan. There's still a fair bit of uncertainty out there, but best thing to do is to jump on our website, plumber.com.au, or go to vic.gov.au, and all the information's there. We've tried to organise it so that it is specific to plumbers and easy to find.
And they can pick up the phone and have a chat to you guys as well, Pete.
Yeah, mate, they can pick up the phone and have a chat. It's quickest to go on the website, but we're always there for members in the industry.
Yeah, no doubt. And then what about some of the silver lining stuff, Pete? I mean, you talk about having a conduit to government. We know that there's going to be a level of infrastructure spending. Can you give us Is there any carrot being dangled where we know that there are going to be more contracts available and more work for subbies when we do come out of restrictions in terms of government spending and infrastructure to make sure that we bounce back as quickly as possible?
Well, the Vic Treasurer has said right from the start that we're going to need a construction-led recovery out of COVID. And I guess the longer that we are locked down and unable to work, at least in Metro Melbourne, the more stimulus government's going to have to provide to get us out of this. So, everything from social housing through to the big capital-intensive infrastructure projects, because we know investment in infrastructure pays off. It pays off in jobs and it pays off in the contribution it makes to the community. And this is stuff that lasts for years and years and years. So it's a real good opportunity for government to spend on infrastructure, get our social housing up to scratch, get our systems up to scratch, and we'll reap the benefit of that for many, many years to come.
And Matt, I know we've worked quite closely together in my role on the comms team, and then obviously the work you've done with New Zealand. They've been there before. We're seeing a little bit of a bounce back over there. Matt, if I could go to you quickly. So I get a sense from you that you're buoyed with a little bit of confidence in terms of what our roadmap out could look like once we do have COVID behind us. So could you talk about maybe for Reece customers and even Reece as a business, what is that silver lining that exists for you in terms of what the end of the year or even the start to the new year might look like?
Well, I can only talk, Huey, on probably my experiences with New Zealand because it's already happened. So in terms of what the landscape looks like forward for us and our predicament, I can only judge it on what's happened in the past. So if I look at, say, New Zealand, it was a great opportunity to learn. And we, in a lot of ways, we had a practice run at how to operate and what to do in New Zealand first before Australia really took shape. But if I look at what's happened over there since, they had a lot of projects that were, sort of put on hold or in a holding pattern during a lockdown period. So, on the flip side of, once things opened up, projects really started to kick along. Yeah. And things sort of bounced back pretty quickly. So we saw projects really start to come on board quickly. We've seen an increase in, quoting activity. So, a number of projects that are really started to bubble to the surface, and things started to happen around, projects that have been sort of sitting in the back burners for a bit. But also too, we saw the renovate and replacement market start to assist with a bounce back as well. So, when you've been sitting at home for a long period of time, you get to realise what's good and bad about your house. And if you're not going to go on a holiday, boys, you go and you spend money on your house. So I would say that I'm pretty optimistic in terms of, construction and from that point of view, because I think that while all this is going on, there are still projects there that have either been put on hold or awaiting, and, they have to get done. And also too, I still think that there's that, opportunity with people not traveling and going away and all that sort of stuff, where they're going to invest in bricks and mortar and they're going to do it on their family home. So I would be pretty optimistic about, once we get through this, what the future looks like.
And being optimistic can be a challenge for a few people. I mean, Matt, we talk a lot at Reece in relation to mental health, and I know there's some great support available, not just in terms of the customer and branch and the relationship our customers have got with our people, but, through EAP and, checking in with your mates. Mental health is a really important one for you, Matty. Have you got any words of advice for some of the people listening in terms of reaching out and finding the right support network? Being optimistic, but then obviously getting through some of the challenges that are going to come down with the latest round of lockdown restrictions across Victoria.
I mean, listen, Huey, there is no doubt that, this working from home and people with families and schooling and all that sort of stuff, particularly in Metro Melbourne, this is tough. Like, in terms of what you envisage life looking like with, as a family person or running a business and the current environment you're in, you probably never dreamed of this type of landscape. The one thing I would say is that We're still lucky enough that in a lot of ways we can still get social connection and what have you from going to our branches. So I'd really encourage, our account holders or what have you to come into the branch. We've got really good protocols when it comes to how they're set up. So I'd really encourage, if you want to have a chat and at least get some social connection, you can continue to do that. And then on the flip side of that, we're making sure we stay really close to our account base. So our interactions with our customers have never been so high, from either by phone or, by FaceTime or any other type of technology we can connect with. And then thirdly, I would say that, take advantage of our support service we've got with the assistance program. It is there for a reason. We have set it up. It's been really helpful for our staff, not only during this period, but for a number of years now. So I'd really just encourage, our account holders that if they do feel like talking to somebody, that we do have a way in order to facilitate that.
And your members have that opportunity as well. I know you've got some great partnerships, Pete, if you wanted to touch on those in relation to mental health and how you can support your members.
Yeah, look, I think it's really true, and we often forget as an industry how much therapy just dropping into a Reece store can be, and just having that chat and getting a bit of sympathy, because we're all sort of facing the same challenges. But look, the industry in Victoria is really lucky to have a group called IncoLink, which provides a really good EAP program, and details on their website, and we can post that up.
Yep.
But we also encourage our members. It's just making a couple of phone calls, really. If you can try talking to a mate, once a week or once a fortnight, more often if they're struggling a little bit. And it's like they say, are you okay? It's just that quick check-in that's just so important. Just to let people have a chat and to let them know they're not alone.
Yeah. And fingers crossed again. I know we've said this a few times when we've had these chats, Pete and Matty, but we know there is a horizon there. We've just got to make sure we're doing all we can to keep ourselves safe and keep our families and customers safe, and drive down those daily numbers. That's going to be the best way that we're going to get back on track. And fingers crossed, push ahead with the COVID roadmap to make sure that the Victorian economy and the health and wellbeing of our customers can move forward as quickly as possible. So as always, really appreciate your time. We will continue to provide you with these updates at the very least weekly via outlet. You can catch us on YouTube. You've got the Master Plumbers websites available there, as well as all the assets that we've got available via Reece Group. So we'll continue to check in, provide you with solid updates. We encourage you to feedback any questions, and we'll do our best to keep you informed as our progress and roadmap to recovery continues across Victoria and more broadly across Australia. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.